Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on Shantaram. Am I saying that right? Shantaram. I did believe it's an Indian phrase because it takes place in India and stars Charlie Hunnam. I can't pronounce anything in this movie. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. You have been checking out my books. I sold so many books today. Thank you. I just checked the feed. I'm gonna give Joan another treat. You guys are great. Thank you so much. All right, so Charlie, you may remember from here. You go, Joe. We're celebrating, selling books. I should go food shopping. Charlie Hunnam is from Sons of Anarchy, and he plays an Australian. And this is a very classic sort of Western story, where based on a novel. So I think he escapes prison, or he gets out of prison and runs away from Australia, and he's hiding out in India, in Bombay in particular, where a lot of people just go to disappear, right? Because there's a million people there. So he goes, but it's a redemption arc. So he's a criminal. He's trying to reform himself, but then he finds even worse criminals there. But he also finds friends and hot chicks. So as an expat, he's kind of a standout. But then this criminal guy who he ends up kind of working for sort of takes things too far, and he ends up going after people he cares about. And I'm assuming this takes place late 80s, early 90s, because fax machine, something like that. And it's a series. It's not a movie. It's the first series coming out of Hulu that I would definitely watch. I would definitely watch this. Oh, here we go. A heroin addict. Oh, he's a heroin addict, too. Incarcerated for a robbery. Escapes prison and reinvents himself as a doctor in the slums of Bombay. Well, that's a big stretch. His ties to the criminal underworld there lead him to Afghanistan, where he partners with a mob boss locked in a battle with Russian criminals. Oh, wow. So it's more than just India. Okay. The Afghanistan part didn't really come across in the trailer, but Charlie is pretty good leading guy, and I like that he's doing an Australian accent. It separates him from I don't know. He's probably Australian, right? Or English. I don't think he's American. Anyhow, he's it's a redemption arc. He's a criminal and heroin junkie, and he's trying to put his life back together, and he ends up fighting for a cause here. Now, if this is Afghanistan, then he'd be probably late 80s, early 90s. He's fighting the Russians. So the Soviets are the bad guys probably in this. Sounds like that's the deal. Yeah, I think it could be a good show. I mean, it looks intense. I think Charlie's a good lead. I love redemption arcs like this. I really do. Because it gives you an interesting character who's down on his luck, or he's flawed, but he's trying to rise above those flaws to do something good with his life, and maybe he succeeds, maybe he doesn't. You kind of don't know. It's kind of a gray area. So I could see this totally being a great show. It's an interesting time period. There's a lot going on here in this part of the world. Still a lot going on in that part of the world right now. It's always volatile. When you're in America, and we've seen so many shows in America, you kind of know what's going to happen. There's sort of a limited scope of things that tends to happen in shows in America, especially on mainstream television. But this seems interesting. It's based on a best-selling novel, because are there any other kind of novels? Are there any other kind of novels that get turned into TV shows and movies, Joan? I don't think so. Little dog. And that he ends up in Afghanistan. Now, that's the heart of heroin country right there. And he's a heroin addict. So, interesting. Shantaram? Shantaram? So it's got a very worldly sort of feel to the show, but at the same time, because you have a Western lead, he can kind of bring Western audiences into that world in a way that's going to be it's going to be it's going to be easier for the viewers to get into if they're not from that area. So I think that's a good way to frame it. Probably that's the book. Can't really get a 3-act breakdown of a series, but basically it's going to be about him trying to redeem himself. But it's going to be tough, right? Because you're talking about not only the criminal underworld, but in a world where the government, the law enforcement, everybody is very corrupt or very vulnerable to corruption. And you've got religion, tribal factions. Lots of stuff going on here. And lots of stuff to unravel as a writer that you can introduce the audience to that makes it very interesting to delve into, right? So he meets some Imam somewhere and then gets a fast lesson in what he believes and how his faction of followers are connected in Afghanistan, in Bombay, or wherever, and how that relates to the West. So it's part of the world that's not really known to most Western audiences. So that's what makes it interesting to me, as opposed to seeing yet another, I don't know, sitcom or whatever about something we've seen a million times, another cop show or something like that. So it's called Shantaram. Shantaram. I'm getting the hang of it. Starring Charlie Hunnam. Check it out on Hulu. It's a series, and let's see, when's it start? Did it say? Oh wait, no, it's not Hulu. It's Apple TV. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Apple TV. I don't know why I said Hulu. I think I may be confusing it. Oh, here it is, October 14th. Yeah, I think it looks good. All right, that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more bass takes. We've got more bass takes, right, Little Joan? And we'll see you in the next one.